There you
All
go.
right.
All right, guys. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I think there's going to be a couple more people that hop on. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen.
Sniffing around. Will you take her outside for me and see if she's...
Let's see here. Screen one. Share. Hide. Open. All right.
Well, good morning and thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's Monday morning mortgage message. So, or I think that's what I call it. But
Sure.
a little bit about kind of what's going on with our markets right now. We actually saw this last week. Last week we saw an improvement in rates, partly because the Fed spoke and they brought up some interesting information about the inflation. They think that the inflation is going to be a temporary blip on the radar. They don't think it's going to be a permanent inflation. They think it's really tied to more of the distribution channel with just a tough time getting all of the goods to port, so to speak. And with the COVID, the supply chain just being what it is. So even though the inflation numbers are hot, they are not worried. So that kind of eased investors last week. And we saw an improvement, this rise in the bond market, which means when the bond market on the 30-year bonds rise, rates come down. So it wasn't a huge difference. It was only about 50 basis points, which is about an eighth in rate. So it does help. It absolutely helps, but it wasn't like a major change. So today, you can see we're down 5 basis points right now. We had a bond auction this morning that didn't go very well. So there was a 10-year treasury note auction, and it was met with average demand. So it wasn't bad. It was a C+. So C's get degrees kind of a thing. That's what I tell my kids right now through this COVID thing, but it's not really a good or a bad thing. So the rates kind of are pretty flat. So what I do see is I think next month, I think I've talked about this in the past, next month, we're going to see the inflation numbers come in hot. So we may see a knee-jerk reaction for the short term, but I think long-term rates are going to continue to stay low. So that's a good thing. There's not as much positive news through this, through the stimulus as much as we expected. Like the jobless claims are actually still quite high. We saw about 1 million new jobs created, but then there was an additional 750,000 lost. So the job creation is better because everyone's kind of opening up, but there was also a lot of lost jobs as well. So we're hoping that, you know, the markets can come back strong, but we want to be careful that it doesn't come off too hot because that's where inflation starts to peak in. So we all see gas prices going up. We all see prices of wood going up. So that's the type of thing that they think is going to be temporary. But I know people in the wood industry that are telling me there's no shortage. They're just charging that because they can. So it's going to be interesting to see how the inflation in the future really comes to fruition. So what that comes, but right now we're kind of flat. We kind of had this rise up where we could have reached up here, but tomorrow the PPI numbers come out. So that's the core producer price index for inflation. They're expecting it to come in a little hot. So we're actually at a idea of maybe locking in some loans today in front of tomorrow's announcement. So that's where rates are at right now. Again, we may see a tick up this summer into the higher threes, kind of like what I've been predicting, but I think it's going to be temporary. Once the stimulus nitrous wears out, we're going to be, I think, into a financial picture where the bonds are going to react in a way where rates will drop again. So mark my words, maybe early next year or late this year, we'll see. But that's kind of where rates are at. Any questions on rates currently? Sorry, I've got the sniffles, like the worst allergies right now. All right, so now we're going to talk about condos as the topic of the day. I'm going to share a screen. This is going to are my my little notes, just so you guys can see this. Condos and financing is it's kind of one of those elusive question marks. You never know with condos what the condo is going to be, whether it's approved. It's hard to figure out. So I want to make it simple. First off, I've put together some little notes here, and I'll send this to everyone as well. But these links right here are links to look up whether or not a condo is VA approved and FHA approved. So what that looks like, the sites, if you go to them direct, if I can pull this down a little bit, hold on one second. Here's the HUD, the FHA approved condos. If you have people that are looking for condos, you go on here, you change this to Arizona. You do the zip code that they're interested in looking at, 85027. Just throw that in there. Oh, that's a city. And it'll give you a list, and you do status, just those that are approved. Now here's your shopping list. None. There's none in that area. That's fun. So let's do 85260, 85260, because I know there's condos in there. And then send. Here's your list of approved condos that you can send your buyers to. And that's it. So don't look anywhere else other than this. So you can really make it specific if you have VA approved or FHA approved buyers. So you're not giving them everything. Make it specific to those that are approved in their area. It really helps. If your buyers have a condo they're interested in, you can just go to that link, put in the information for the zip code, and see if it's on this list. You'll see this column status right here, approved. It'll say right here the status of when it was approved. And then that way you know if it's an FHA approved condo or not. The same is true for VA. Here's the VA site where you can look up to see if it's approved. You put approved, put the condo name, put the regional office, which we want as, where are you? Phoenix. And then just plug in the information for the condos that you're looking for, and you can do the same exact thing as the FHA. Now, one of the things that a lot of people make mistakes on is when they're putting their properties for sale and they're posting them on the MLS, they'll put that it's a townhouse because maybe the property is being advertised as a townhouse. But you have to look at the actual legal description to see if it's truly a condo or a townhouse. The only way to find out if a condo is in fact a condo or if a townhouse is a condo is to look at the legal description. So as far as what you want to look for, there's some term called horizontal property regime. Anytime you see that on a legal description, it's a condo. If you see it that it says condominium in the legal description, then it's a condo. If it says lot number, then you can assume that they own the dirt. But if it says lot number and horizontal property regime, then it's still a condo. So it's really confusing. Anytime you have a listing that's a townhouse and you want to really see if it's truly a townhouse or not, it's simple. Just look at the legal description, or you can send it to me. But that's a huge problem with a lot of buyers. They'll look at townhomes thinking it's going to be a townhome, and then we get it and it's actually a condo. It's quite common in Arizona because builders got a little lazy. They want to save a buck. So instead of taking a big community and subdividing it into individual parcels, they just said, well, heck with that. It's cheaper just to call it condos and build the townhouses on them. So keep that in mind as you're putting your listings on the market. That you need to check that legal description first before you do so. Now, I want to go over what is on the Fannie Mae side, what constitutes a limited condo review versus a full condo review. And then I want to show you some examples of some litigation that I was lucky to have sent to me actually today on one condominium to kind of show you what is like the kryptonite of getting a condo approved. So the limited condo review, I'm going to show you with the list what it looks like. It's very limited. So there's very few pieces in here. The information for the HOA, just basic information. Is it a hotel or a motel conversion? There's not too much information in here. There's just a few pages. Now it does say if more than one unit is owned by the same individual, that can be a big issue. So if a condo, let's just say there's 25 condos in a small unit, a small development. If one person owns more than 25%, that could kill the deal. So this piece in here can make a big difference in whether or not that condo gets approved or not. And if it's a conventional loan, you have to go through the full condo approval, whether it's a limited review on this short form, or it's the long form, which really is extensive. The full form has everything you could ever imagine. As far as percentages of owners, how many are rentals, how many are second homes, is there litigation, how many, like if the HOA is delinquent, what percentage of HOA is delinquent. So this is a much more in-depth review. And I'm going to send you links to these as well, so you guys can see these. It's all in this, but this is the difference between a limited review and a full review. So a lot of times somebody can come to us and they're like, well, I want to buy this condo, but I only have 5% down. And then we go into the full review because you have to do at least 10% down to get the limited review. And it's not warrantable. So that term not warrantable basically means that it's not approvable. There can be many reasons for that, but that just means that this form, however it was filled out, does not comply with Fannie Mae guidelines. So if they did 10% though, it could do the limited form and we may still be able to do the loan. So we usually talk to customers and say, hey, can you do another 5% so that we don't have to mess with all of these potential issues that could be part of the condo? And sometimes they have that, sometimes they don't. But remember, the condo has to go through an approval process very similar to the approval process of the borrower at the same time simultaneously. And the only way to know ahead of time is to do a little bit of research to talk to the listing agent to see if there's any conventional loans that have been done in the last 60 to 90 days. And then you have to find out how much was put down to see if a full condo review might have been completed. And the only way to know that is if somebody bought a primary home with 5% down or 10% or less down, or less than 10%, I should say. So it's really tricky trying to get these through with full condo reviews if there's issues with the actual condo themselves. Really, it's a health and wealth questionnaire for the HOA. If there's any litigation, I want to go over litigation real fast because I've seen this pop up quite a bit lately. Here's a litigation document from an attorney of Coyote Landing condominiums. And this was a great example that was sent to me this morning. In here, it's a litigation of the HOA or against the HOA that the firm is representing. And I've highlighted here, it's for defective construction and repairs of roofs and other common elements within the community. If the litigation has to do with anything that's construction related of the actual property that we are using as collateral, it's a kiss of death. You're probably not going to get that approved. It's probably not going to go through. But if it was somebody tripped and fell in the common area, or there's something with the common areas that has nothing to do with the actual integrity of the structure being lent upon, or the collateral for that, then we're fine. So there's even instances where there's different phases, and maybe phase one had issues with the roof, but phase two didn't. So it would be okay there. So anytime you have a litigation, it doesn't mean we can't do the deal. If it's a bank, it means they can't do it. But mortgage companies like ours that are mortgage bankers that make the decisions internally, as long as it's not construction related, 9 times out of 10, we can do the loan still. So all we have to do is see this type of a letter or what the litigation is about to really know whether or not it's going to be an issue or not. So any questions on that? I'm going to pull up this chat. I'm going to stop share for a second here so I can see the chat. All right, we got some questions here. Can you check University Meadows and Flagstaff? Yes. So you want me to do a quick check? Eric, was that an FHA loan or is that a VA?
Let's do FHA, please.
Okay, so if we go into the FHA condominium list and let's go. What was the zip code again?
It should be 86001.
Okay, I'm just gonna plug that in. Only the approved ones, hit send. And there's no FHA approved loan projects in that zip code. So that would
Ooh.
answer your question.
Okay,
Um,
but then for conventional, it would be, we don't know. We don't know if it's going to be full approval or partial approval, right? We
That's
have to dig
exactly
to.
right. So here's the, let me share my screen again. The parameters on what can be a limited review versus a full review. Let me do that again. Hold on one second. Let me pull this up. So the parameters for a limited condo review, or you have to do 10% or more down on a primary, 25% or more down on a second home, and 25% more or more down on an investment property. If it's a new build condo, like a brand new condo complex, you always need a full review. So keep that in mind. I'm going to send this to you. So again,
I'm going to send my buyers to you too. We're looking at a condo come this Wednesday, and we're just trying to get all our ducks in line. So I'll have her reach out to you.
Yeah, it's a complicated process to go through the condo side, but as long as you know the details and ways to get around it, the full review, anytime you do less than 10% down on a primary or less than 25% down on a second home or investment property, then that's when you'll need the full review. And that's where the real gross stuff comes out. You can avoid a lot of it through a limited condo review. But I think the most important part is knowing what it is. So if you look up a property and there's some townhouses that are literally labeled, like Arcadia townhouses is one of them. They're labeled in the marketing name townhouse, but in reality, they're condos. There's also single family homes that may share a wall. Like there's some homes in the valley that like a side of the house is actually a wall for the other neighbor's backyard. So it shares lot lines. Those a lot of times are condos, even though they're not attached. They're called detached condos. And those do not need a condo approval. So if it's a detached, looks like a single family residence, but it's zoned as a condo, you do not need a condo approval for that. So just as a little nugget there for you.
How would that show up, Sean, in legal description? I mean, I call those a zero lot line house. I'm buying one for a client right now. But how would the legal description look for me?
It would say one of two things. It'll say condominium on there, or it'll say a horizontal property regime. It'll say one of those two. And if it says lot number, then it is truly you own the dirt type property, unless it says horizontal property regime or condo. So look up the deed. So what I typically do is I'll take the property address, I'll look it up on Maricopa County, I'll pull the deed up and look at the actual deed, the legal description to see what it truly is. That's the only way of really knowing. Now,
but that's the same for a single family attached or zero lot line?
Zero lot line, because of the city's ordinance regarding the easements between properties, a lot of times that when they have zero lot line, they may be forced into a condominium legal description. So definitely look at that. But you may not need it, because if it's a detached, a condo approval is not needed. But it's just interesting how they label it on the legal description.
Got you. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Now, FHA guys, we used to be able to do spot approvals where we could go get one property at a time through FHA and get that approved. That's no longer a possibility. And now with FHA, there's actually an FHA document that we have to complete, an FHA approval condo form that goes along with it. So even when it is an FHA approved condo, there is an additional form, it's right here, that we have to complete. And it's just basic information for the most part. See, it's just simple stuff. So walls in coverage, what their insurance policies are. And And then here, obviously, is there some more questions, but house boat project, like these are stuff that for the most part, it will pass. So this is just another piece of it now, but spot approvals, those days of getting a property that's not FHA approved quickly, are gone. You can do the whole project, but that takes a long time, up to 90 days. So spot approvals are no longer a part of our world, unfortunately, on the FHA loans. So I'm going to get back into some of these questions. Hold on one second. For kiting loaning, no conventional, no FHA, but is VA just as tough? VA is not as tough. If it's on the VA approved list, you are good to go. There's nothing else needed. But a lot of times, if there's a big litigation like that, it's usually pulled off their VA approved list. So you can check on that VA website to see if that really is a possibility or not. And I can help you with that too. Do you only lend in AZ? No, my team we have numerous licenses. So I think 48 of the states we're licensed in. Me personally is California, Arizona only, but we can do any state and I can be the liaison for that transaction. All right, let's see. Thank you. Is my first and last name are visible? Michael. Okay. Michael, what did link, please? Okay, so we're going to send you guys some links. Yes, I will copy those over and put them in the chat box as well. There's quite a bit in here. But actually, I'll just
I can send it to them if you don't. I mean, if you want to just send me the notes, I can just send all the links to everyone on the call.
Yeah, we can do that.
That might be easier.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot easier. Let's see if there's any other questions. Any other questions regarding condos, guys? They can be really kind of confusing. So no question is too simple or stupid. There's no such thing as stupid questions here. So don't be embarrassed to ask. Wow, I did that good of a job, huh? Kind of going over the differences. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it is weird to navigate sometimes. It's really important to look at the legal description of these properties, though. It really truly is. That's where you're really going to find the reality behind the properties, especially when listing a property. You're going to want to make sure you know if it's a condominium or not. And then if it is, then you have to look at to see if it's an FHA approved condo, a VA approved condo, to put that in the financing part, what's truly available for financing for that property. All right, I got through without sneezing. I can't believe it. I've had allergies so bad today. But any other questions? I'll stay on for a little while, and I'll be here just to answer any questions as you guys have them.
Hey, Sean, this is Vicky Gorman.
Hey, Vicky.
Hey, could you put in, you might already have it, but I just, could you put in the chat box, the link for the government site, HUD site?
Yep, I'll put those in right now.
Thanks. Thank you. It was awesome.
Not a problem. All right, let's see if I can get back to where I was. There's FHA. And if you get in a bind, if you Google FHA approved condos, it's the first link. Or if you click Google VA approved condos, it's the first link as well. All right, so here's this one. But it's always nice to have. Oh, guess what? We just lost 14 basis points. So if you see this right here, I'll share it again. Hold on. See that we just lost 14 basis points. So a rate this morning that cost no points will now cost 0.14 points to get. So there you go. I'm glad I locked earlier. All right, so let's go ahead and copy this over as well. Where's the chat? Stop share, chat. And then here's the VA site. So those are the two links for the FHA approved condos and the VA approved condos. All right. So the next week, guys, I'm going to talk about how to teach your buyers how to shop for a loan. It's a really interesting topic. And I'm going to go into a lot of things that you probably never thought about. And your buyers for sure have never thought about. So next week, we're going to do how to teach your buyers how to shop for a mortgage, the differences between different lenders, and how to best position yourself for the buy side of a transaction. So it's gonna be really, really good. I think it'll be my favorite class so far this year that I've taught. So, or favorite information to share. But until then, I'm available if you guys have any questions. I'll stay on until the end if anyone has any further questions.